there are sometimes things that happen that are like special events. There are things that are like completely shocking events. Like, remember when Will Smith walked up on stage at the Oscars and he just bitch slapped the shit out of Chris Rock? Remember that? That was kind of one of those events. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this week on the Level 1 podcast, we're going to have another one of those kind of events. Not that violent kind of event, but one of those very special events that is going to be incredibly notable in history. Okay? This coming Wednesday, on this very show, I will have Keemstar as a guest. He will actually be my very first guest I've ever had on the Level 1 podcast. Now, if that's not an interesting starter guest, I don't know what is. The way it's going to work is I'm going to start the podcast a little early. I'm going to start at around 11 a.m., and I'm going to get technical issues worked out live with you guys because this has to go down via Discord. So I have to make sure that Discord is coming through well in my setup. If you remember when I did this a couple weeks ago when we were doing the live Rich React, we had technical issues. So I need to like mess with this a bit, and we'll have like a half an hour to dick around with each other and work this out before Keem arrives to get it all working, okay? And so Keem will arrive around 11:30 a.m., and it'll be about roughly an hour to an hour and a half conversation. This is not going to be an interrogation. This is not going to be a shooting gallery, a firing squad. This is not going to be toxic, all right? This is going to be the first ever time that the two of us get to sit down and have a man-to-man, respectful conversation. I do have questions for the man. I do. I have things I want to ask him about himself, his history, the way he conducts himself, the way he does business, the way he's treated me. And I'm sure he's going to have questions for me. But we have sat down and agreed to do this in a very public but respectful manner. I think it's the best for everyone, especially now that this turnaround is happening for me and in the public's eye and spectacle, things are getting better and more positive. Now is the time to do things like this, right? Because I don't want to be someone who just has constant like aggression to everyone on the internet. You know, a lot of people don't like me for really dumb reasons. But it's funny because when I actually sit down with them, like, you know, Casino, all of a sudden they're like, well, this guy's actually, you know, kind of normal and cool. And it's very possible that this could be, you know, this step towards things happening that are more sane. Let's put it that way. Instead of just constant drama, chaos, nonsense, and toxicity, I would like to try to make step towards sanity on the internet, especially when it comes to me and my presence and my community. Because you guys have to understand something, okay? The toxicity that gets thrown my way isn't just affecting me. It affects my entire viewership and community, right? When something toxic happens to me, now they have to hear about it endlessly. All my viewers want to do is come here and hang out with me and have a good time. And instead, they got to hear another detractor meme. They got to hear about this and that. The Side Scrollers interview last year, are you kidding me? Do you know how negative that was for my viewership? They were so upset, and rightly so, because I made a bad decision and it blew up in my face, right? But now things are going differently, and I think now is time to do things differently and conduct ourselves more professionally. And I will say this. He contacted me behind the scenes via a Twitter DM, okay? Little did I know, he publicly streamed that. I found that out after the fact. I had no idea he was actually sending me this Twitter DM via like a live stream. Am I surprised? I am not surprised. The man loves publicizing everything he does. This is the opposite of my attitude today. My attitude today is separate everything. Everything private and personal behind the scenes is over here. And then what you see here on camera is in the office, and that's it. You know, he very much tends to cross that line and put everything publicly, which is how I used to be ages ago. If you remember, before I had insane detractors who literally took every piece of stuff about me and tried to ruin my life, I used to publicly broadcast every piece of my life. I had to stop doing that and cut back on it. But anyway, yeah, he wrote me that message. We had a conversation this morning that was very respectful, and we've agreed to do this for about, like I said, roughly an hour, maybe an hour and a half. but it'll be on the show Wednesday morning, which is August. Hold on. I probably should have had the date ready. August 28th. Again, my show will begin around 11 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll get the technical bugs out. We'll fix the Discord shit, and then he'll join around 11:30, and we'll talk for about an hour, hour and a half, and that'll be the actual podcast. Now, I'm going to say this right now, all right? I absolutely know that when this kind of stuff happens, people try to turn it into, like, an assassination attempt. And what I mean by that, look what happened when I was on Side Scrollers. I appeared on Side Scrollers, and all of my trolls and detractors went on that show and threw them a bunch of contributions that were all toxic. They then spent an entire, like, show destroying me after the fact, right? Reading toxic shit, participating in negative memes. I know people will come to the show and contribute. I am not going to be reading out any donos, no contributions at all, until our interview is completely done, right? When it's done and then we're decompressing from it, then I will read the contributions. But I'm going to be fair, and I'm not going to character assassinate someone who was just a guest on my show for personal gain. I'm going to show you how to actually conduct yourself as a professional on the internet, and I'm going to show you how the side scrollers don't know what the fuck they're doing because they're greedy motherfuckers who only did it to make a buck on my back rather than actually put out a legitimate piece of content for which you could judge for yourself after the fact if you believe the person or not who was interviewed. So there will not be interruptions. It'll just be the two of us sitting there talking uninterrupted, no bullshit. And then after the fact, once the interview's done, then I will read contributions in the light. And I promise you, I will be fair. Okay? So, yeah, if you can believe it. I mean, who would have thought in 2024, the year of our Lord, that all this would be happening, correct? Who would have thought?